Ever had a Karen measure your mailbox paper slap? She taped a pink fine $75 to my grandpa's post like it was a warning label. Wrong name, wrong law, right arrogance. The notice quoted 412-07, a rule from a year our HOA didn't even exist, proof of a scam hiding behind letterhead. Gavel drop. I opened our firm's evidence log under the porch light and filed at 03:17 a.m. Next week, their clubhouse locks turned silent. The envelope was bright enough to shame the sunrise. Certified, the carrier said, holding the clipboard like a rules book. Grandpa signed in 3 neat strokes. He didn't smile. The manila sat on our porch rail, picking up dust and judgment. I slit the edge with my truck key and eased out a pink sheet taped to a trifold letter. Mailbox violation, I read. $75. PO12-07. Grandpa's name was misspelled by 1 letter, the kind of error lazy fraudsters make and honest clerks don't. He tapped the footer with a knuckle. The toner shone like fish scales. Look at that. At the bottom, footer received 0317. Filed. A stamp graphic pretending to be a seal. Print shop courage, I said. He angled the paper to the light. They fined me while decent people were asleep. Or they needed the time to look official. I breathed out through my nose. Let's verify the origin. A second page claimed the HOA had adopted mailbox standards in 1998. The font was a clean sans serif. The letterhead Meadowbrook Homeowners Association had a serif. The barcode repeated on 2 lines. 2 barcodes, same string, I said. Copy-paste sloppy. Grandpa kept staring, thumb resting on the pink slip. The wind toyed with the battered red flag on his box at the end of the long gravel. The hinge creaked like an old knee. Call them, he said. Ask for the originals. I opened the voice memo app and set my phone on the rail. The waveform idled like a heartbeat. Meadowbrook, HOA. A woman answered on the first ring. This is Ms. Kell. This is Garrett Thorne, I said. For Mr. Hollis. We received a $75 citation for a mailbox under 412-07. Please provide the original ordinance and the minutes adopting it. Our records are digital, she said. We don't release internal copies to non-members. Payment can be made by, we need the minutes, I said. If 412-07 predates your incorporation, you'll have pre-2019 minutes. If it doesn't, the citation is void. A paper flip on her end. Sir, refusing to comply will incur late fees. Then show me the rule existed when you say it did. Silence. I could hear an air conditioner hum, maybe a ceiling vent. Our attorney will respond, she said bright again. Mail in the coupon. She hung up. Grandpa's mouth flattened. They're counting on us being tired. We can be tired later, I said. Right now, we're precise. I photographed the envelope, the postmark, the letterhead, and the barcode twins. I laid the pages on the kitchen tool bench, a scarred maple slab that once held carburetors and now held paperwork. Coffee ring. Yellow legal pad. I wrote the date in block numbers. Timeline, I said. Step 1, county recorder. Step 2, post office counter. Step 3, website archive. Grandpa set the pink slip beside my notebook. Don't lose that. I won't. The pink looked like a childish dare. He cleared his throat. $75 is contempt, not revenue. Exactly. We drove to town with the envelope in a clear sleeve. At the post office, the bell above the door jingled like it always does, lazy and steady. The clerk surely took the mailer and scanned the strip. This was entered at 7:41 yesterday, she said. But your stamp reads received at 3:17. She narrowed her eyes. That's not our format. Noted, I said. Could you print the scan receipt? She slid a strip across the counter. Receipt, track scan, 0741. The thermal paper curled at the edges. Back on the sidewalk, Grandpa watched trucks idle by the diner. The griddle smell traveled even in the cool. He held the pink slip again, lighter now, in his hand. They stamped it before they mailed it, he said. They stamped artwork. He made a sound that wasn't a laugh. It's a costume for a lie. A mini dust devil crossed the lot, collecting napkins and releasing them against the curb. I took it as a cue. Motion. Move. We drove to the ranch. I cleared the bench and lined up the piece's envelope letter pink slip receipt like a small exhibit. The microphone on my phone was still hot from the call. Let's isolate the tells, I said. The letter says HOA 1207 was adopted in 1998. The HOA incorporated in 2019. I opened my laptop. If they truly existed informally in '98, there will be minutes somewhere newspapers microfilm community bulletins. Grandpa slid open a drawer and pulled out an old folder. Thick ivory paper with a faint blue border. Hollis and Thorne, LLP. The letterhead smelled like ink and storage. He set it down like a card on felt. We started the firm the year your mother was born. I was better at arguing then. You're still good at leverage, I said. We only need facts. He closed his palm over the pink slip, then loosened it. Silent beat. He looked past me through the kitchen window out to the dented mailbox sitting proud at the road like a small iron soldier. That flag came with the place, he said. It's earned the right to squeak. I nodded. We'll oil it when we're done. I drafted a records request to the HOA. Please produce original minutes adopting HOA 12-07, any corresponding ballot or vote count date-stamped agendas and full text of standards as adopted. I printed 2 copies and clipped them. Service, Grandpa said. For today, USPS certified. Tomorrow, personal delivery if they stall. I smiled despite myself. Confident letterhead isn't the law, he snorted. Put that on a mug. I pointed to the footer on the letter. Put this on a complaint. We drove back to the post office and mailed the request. Shirley stamped the green cards and slid them back under glass with the casual authority of someone who can turn a piece of paper into a promise. The stamp, thunk, echoed off the window. Keep your receipts, she said, as if we needed instruction. On the way out, Grandpa paused at the public bulletin board. Yard sales, church supper, lost dog, no HOA notices about mailboxes. Not a single neighborhood meeting announcement from 1998 or any year that would help the story they'd written. Quiet where it should be noisy, I said. Empty where it should be full, he said. Back at the ranch, the sun slid toward the cottonwoods and the mailbox shadow grew long enough to touch the gravel like a painter's stroke. I set up a fresh spreadsheet columns for date, source, claim, evidence, next step. I logged the phone call at 0912, the certified receipt at 10:05, the barcode anomaly at 10:18. My phone buzzed on the bench. Unknown number. I let it ring once, then, twice, then, answered with the voice memo running. This is Ms. Kell, she said. We've reviewed your message. The citation stands. Please confirm the adoption date for HOA 12-07. It has always been our policy to maintain uniformity. That's not a date. Payment is due within 14 days. Send the minutes. That's not how this works, sir, she said, pleasant as ice. We don't play discovery for mailbox paint. You imposed a government-style fine without a government-style record. Originals or nothing. A pause. The HVAC hum again. A desk chair moving. You have a nice day, she said. She hung up. Grandpa exhaled the sound of a tire losing air slowly. They're mocking us. They pressed us, I said. They didn't move us. He rubbed the bridge of his nose. What if this spreads box by box across the county? Then we set a stake, I said. At the county recorder in the morning. He pointed at the pink slip. Bring that. It's our before picture. I checked the time. My coffee had gone cold an hour ago. I poured it into the sink and started a new pot. The kettle clicked and hissed. I printed a map of the recorder's office and clipped it to the top of the binder. At the porch, the air had settled into that late-morning lull where everything waits birds, cattle dust, men. The dented mailbox held its posture flag up like it believed in something. Tomorrow, 8 a.m., I said. We ask the county what existed and when. Then, what Grandpa asked. Then we make the paper trail they can't twice ain't. He nodded once, steady. Good, I'll wear the tie with the tiny scales on it. I smiled. Bring the letterhead, too. We stood there a beat, listening to the small house noises and the far-off highway, the world unchanged and ready for change. I slid the pink slip into a rigid sleeve and placed it in the front pouch of the binder. The plastic whispered closed. I looked at the microphone icon on my phone. Red dot, steady. The waveform, fat, with notes. I saved the file and named it HOA, call 02207, received 0317. Then I said the only plan that mattered. Tomorrow, we get the originals. The recorder's lobby smelled like floor wax and old envelopes. Fluorescence hummed overhead steady as a metronome for rules. We took a number, but the counter was empty. The clerk, gray bun steel glasses, looked up and slid a laminated mat toward us. Parcel number, I read it off the deed. She keyed it with 2 precise taps per block, no wasted motion. A drawer side open. A map sleeve emerged. She set it flat, then squared the corners with her palms like a baker smoothing dough. A small metal device waited by her elbow. Plat of record, she said. Recorded March 12, 2019. Grandpa raised an eyebrow. And the bylaws. Her eyes flicked right. We log those separately. She swung the metal device over the corner and brought it down. Stamp, thunk. The ink bled a perfect rectangle, certified copy county of... She handed me a pen to initial the request line. I traced the boundary on the sheet. 12 lots, clustered neat as chess pawns. Not ours. This is 2 miles south, I said. Our mailbox isn't on this map. She slid over a binder that had seen years of hands. Association filings. Index by name. I turned to Meadowbrook. 1 tab. Inside a 1-page bylaw log, adoption dates typed in crisp black. The first entry read, Bylaws adopted, May 2023. Start here, I said. Grandpa tapped the 2023 line. So, 1207 in 1998 would be what? A ghost. The clerk's mouth did something small. If the HOA existed in 1998, it would have filed within 90 days of formation. We have no pre-2019 entry. May we have certified copies of the plat and this log, I asked. She pulled 2 fresh cover sheets and reached for the embossing tool. The iron arms kissed paper. Embossed seal rose like a pale moon in the corner. A survey tech breezed by in a high-vis vest. He saw the map and whistled softly. Meadowbrook newer stuff. Those posts still have paint. I pointed to the corner callouts. No overlap with our parcel. He shook his head. Different township. Your line runs off Section 18. This is 17. You're outside their fence by statute and soil. Appreciate it, I said. The clerk clicked into the computer. I'm logging an irregularity alert. Your letter's citation references a 1998 rule. Our records show no entity then. I nodded. Please record discrepancy claimed bylaw, date pre-incorporation. She typed the words exactly. Her nails were short and clean, the kind that don't mistake speed for accuracy. Then she gave us the fee like a verdict. I paid, and the register spit a ribbon. Grandpa held the certified plat at arm's length. The light caught the seal and made it blink. Feels heavier than paper, he said. Paper that carries weight, I said. We stepped into the mild glare of late morning and drifted to the diner. The door chime clacked. The waitress topped off our mugs without a question, the courtesy you only earn by being predictable. Grandpa unfolded the bylaw log between salt and pepper. May 2023, he said. 25 years after they say they find me, which means a 1998 812-07 would show up in some public stack, I said. Newspaper notices. Minutes. Anything with ink. I glanced past him at a laminated fee chart taped to the pass-through window, same clean sans serif as the HOA letter's body text. My stomach did a small, satisfied turn. That font, I said. Grandpa followed my eyes. Borrowed from a template. Exactly. Cheap gloss on cheap work. He took a careful sip. Say the line. Garrett. If it's real, I said it survives sunlight. He smiled into his cup. Put that one on the other side of the mug. We paid cash and walked 2 doors down to the courthouse hallway where the legal postings lived behind glass. Tax sales, zoning hearings, road closures. I scanned the columns until my eyes felt like they were made of very fine sand. No Meadowbrook minutes before 2019, I said. Nothing about mailbox standards, ever. Grandpa read over my shoulder lips, moving a hair slower than the words. Silent beat. A clock ticked somewhere beyond the wall, a steady woodpecker note. This board, he said softly, they built a story and forgot to build a past. Back at the recorder's counter, the clerk had stacked our packet as if presenting at inspection certified plat on top, bylaw log beneath, receipt, index printout. I added a record discrepancy note, she said. If any other property owners ask, they'll see the flag. Thank you, I said. One more request. She poised her fingers over the keys. Go on. We need any meeting minutes from 2018 that mention KR 1207 or mailbox standards. Notices, agendas, anything on file. Her hands didn't move. The fluorescents hummed. Down the hall, a copier warmed up and coughed. Minutes are filed by the association, she said finally. If they filed, we have them. If they didn't, we don't. Could we check the year? She looked at Grandpa. He met her gaze without leaning on it. She checked a second index, this one narrower, older, a spreadsheet printed when toner was more expensive. Nothing under Meadowbrook for 2018, she said. I slid our certified packet closer and set the pen on her mat cap off. Would you log a specific search, I asked. So, if anyone asks later, there's a line saying we asked now. She nodded and entered the note. Keys clicked like careful rain. I took a breath I didn't know I'd held. The embossed seal winked in the counterlight, two raised circles of agreement, map, and log surviving the same fluorescent day. Grandpa tapped the pink slip's sleeve in my binder, then the plat, then the log, as if assembling truth by touch, 1, 2, 3. He straightened his tie by a 1/4 inch. Ask your question, he said. I faced the clerk steady. Show me the 2018 minutes. The office kept breathing. The answer didn't come. We all listened to the silence fill in what paper had already told us. The rain had just started when we reached the etched glass door of Hollis & Thorne, LLP. Inside, everything was the color of restraint gray binders, brown oak, the silver tick of a clock marking paid hours. Partner A. Callahan stood by the window glasses low, reading the pink citation we'd brought in a sleeve. She circled Harter 1207 with a navy pen. Wrong statute, she said. Wrong year. They reached 25 years back and grabbed the wrong limb. Grandpa's eyebrows rose. In plain English, it means they fined you under a law that didn't exist, she said. The HOA didn't even file its charter until 2019. Their bylaws began in 2023. A 1998 rule. Myth. The room was silent except for the faint hum of the air vent. On the wall behind her hung a county fair poster, red box drawn around community stage. Microphones provided. I caught her glance. You planning to tell this story with an audience, I asked. Every truth needs one, she said, and microphones help. She pulled a folder labeled TRIA. Oh. Writ draft. Our goal is clean a temporary restraining order to freeze the HOA account until a judge sees these papers. Grandpa leaned forward. How fast? Fast enough to catch their nightly transfers, she said. We spent the afternoon in the firm's library, dust and leather, and a projector that still believed in film. The librarian threaded a reel into the reader. The machine came alive with a soft projector hum. Headlines scrolled like confession tape, 12 weeks of mailbox fines, identical language, identical 70. Pattern evidence, Callahan said. Exhibit C. I printed every page. The warm toner smell joined the dry scent of paper proof that time itself could cooperate. Grandpa hovered behind me, jaw set. They fined 12 of us, he said. And most just paid. Because bluff looks cheaper than battle, Callahan said. But paper outlives bluff. Remember that. Viral quote logged. Back in the conference room, the table became a production line. Callahan dictated. I typed. Affidavit A. Grandpa's receipt of the pink citation stamped Received 0317. B. County Recorder confirming no pre-2019 entity. C. Library microfilm 12 identical finds. D. Font and barcode discrepancies photographed. E. Survey tech verifying township boundaries. F. Certified bylaw log, first rule dated May 2023. G. Postal track printout contradicting the HOA timestamp. H. My call log with Ms. Kell refusing to provide minutes. Each set printed with a clean staple thunk, that small percussion of order. Grandpa read every paragraph aloud, slow, deliberate lips shaping the law into something human. When he signed his verification, his pen didn't tremble. The notary's embossing seal pressed 2 perfect circles into the page. The raised paper caught the desk lamp like a coin turning honest. Next, Callahan said, opening her laptop, "Follow the money." She pulled up Valley First Community Bank filings publicly listed depository for the HOA. Small bank. They sweep accounts nightly. A spreadsheet blinked onto the screen transaction times crisp as tire tracks 0256 assessment fees in. 0310 sweep to operating. She cross-checked dates against the microfilm fines. Numbers matched. Grandpa let out a single laugh dry as the paper between us. They steal at the same minute they pretend to file. Callahan didn't smile. "We'll attach the sweep pattern as Exhibit 1. This is enough for an injunction." Plain English, Grandpa asked again. "We stop them from spending what they shouldn't have," I said. "Freeze first, explain later." He nodded once. "Then do it." By dusk, the office lights glowed like low courtroom fluorescents. Callahan reviewed the final draft. "Judge Mendel's chambers open for e-filing all night," she said. "We'll file electronically, serve the bank order before dawn." The printer whirred pages stacking like thin armor. The air smelled of toner and purpose. I slid the mailbox photo into the binder's front sleeve, a before picture of decency. Beneath it, the pink slip now elevated from insult to evidence. Callahan capped her pen. "This file's going to sing Garrett." Grandpa stood, straightened the same tie he wore to Mom's graduation. "How early do you sing?" She looked at the digital clock blinking near the outlet, 0315 from the citation. A slow grin. "We'll give it poetic symmetry." At home, the kitchen lamp cast long stripes over the table. We stacked exhibits in order A through H plus I. Grandpa brewed coffee while I double-checked timestamps, cross-linked PDFs, saved backups to 2 drives. Outside, the rain tapped the gutters in patient Morse code. I wrote our timeline on the whiteboard above the bench, 2019. Plat recorded. 2023. Bylaws adopted. 1998. Fiction. Grandpa stared at it like a crime scene map. All this for $75. All this because 75 turned out to be cheap tuition, I said. The printer spat the final TRO cover sheet. I slipped it into the binder, pressed the rings shut, and waited for the click. At the bottom of the draft, Callahan had added a new line in small font filed at 0317 a.m. to preserve status quo and prevent dissipation of funds collected under color of authority. I read it twice. Grandpa adjusted his hat, voice steady. Then, tomorrow, he said we freeze their fund. Callahan's text came through a second later. We file at 0317. We freeze the fund tomorrow. The clock on our microwave ticked toward midnight. I backed up the folder one more time, closed the laptop, and let the hum die away. The porch light burned through the rain, steady as a verdict not yet spoken. The courthouse corridor hummed with fluorescence and bad coffee. At the end of it, the digital docket screen refreshed blue letters crawling like slow ticker tape. There it was, bank account hold. Filed 0317. The timestamp glowed against the glass like it wanted to be believed. Partner Callahan exhaled through her nose. Filed and served, she said, holding the stamped PDF on her tablet. Grandpa took off his hat the way men do for verdicts. The bailiff signed our copy pen, scratching neat as a ledger entry. Judge Mendel appeared briefly from chambers robe loose at the neck, reading the caption aloud. Temporary restraining order. Hollis and Thorne, LLP on behalf of Hollis property owner. Relief freeze of all HOA operating funds pending verification of authority. His voice was sandpaper calm. Paper's good. Let it work. By sunrise, we were in the parking lot of Valley First Community Bank. Dew filmed the hood, the courthouse seal still wet on our envelope. Inside the bank, Officer Young, careful shoulders tense, took one look at the court stamp and nodded like it carried weight he could feel. "You'll want a verification code," he said. "We freeze only with confirmation from the clerk." Callahan tapped her phone speaker on. The clerk's monotone echoed through the lobby, order verified. TRO, active as of 0317. Hold funds until further court notice. The officer entered the code, hit enter, and waited. On his screen, a single bar turned green. "Effective," he said. "Funds frozen." Grandpa adjusted his glasses. "That quick law beats rumor by a second when it wants to," Callahan said. I took photos, screen reflection court order, the officer's initials on the receipt. The images uploaded to cloud storage under a new tag, checksum 0317, logged. Chain of custody secure. When we stepped outside, the sky was dull pewter. The courthouse clock across the street clicked to 6. Deputy Weller, a friend from the Fire Volunteer Board, leaned against his cruiser phone in hand. "You folks seen this?" he asked. On the screen, the HOA's social post flashed community update malicious actors spreading misinformation about HOA integrity. My name was blurred, but obvious. Grandpa's jaw went tight. "They're already spinning it." Weller shrugged. "They always do. Let paper talk. It'll talk louder." Back at the firm, Callahan set up a verification stream, one terminal mirrored to the court docket, another to the bank's hold notice. She typed quietly, fingers making the kind of rhythm you trust in emergencies. "Checksum, verified," she said. "Any movement triggers alert." Grandpa leaned on the conference table. "You ever get tired of proving what should already be true? Proof keeps the floor from moving," she said. We drove home through the half-light. The diner was just opening. The sign blinked open, like Morse code. Inside, the smell of bacon and copier toner mixed from the morning papers stacked by the register. A neighbor glanced up from his coffee phone lit with the same HOA post. He looked away, pretending it wasn't me. Back in the garage, the workbench waited. The binder sat open to Exhibit H. I clipped in the bank, confirmation, pressed the rings until they snapped. Each page lay like a floor tile square, certain carrying its own weight. Grandpa placed his hand on the pink slip again. The corner had begun to curl the first small fracture of a long paper trail. "Prop number 2, I said quietly. "Account hold fracture in progress." He smiled without humor. Fractures let light in. Outside, the deputy's cruiser idled once more down the road, passing slow. The sound faded under the hum of the fridge and the clicking of the binder rings settling. I queued a new recording on my phone, naming it 0317 Execution. At 9:12 a.m., the firm's process server called. "Both entities served," she said. HOA board acknowledged receipt through counsel. They didn't say much. Callahan's text followed seconds later. "Hold confirmed at Valley First. Fund status frozen. We're archiving screenshots. Paper owns the room." I read the message aloud. Grandpa's shoulders dropped a fraction, the kind of relief that still had work to do. "They'll smear louder before noon," he said. "Let them," I said. "Threats sound smaller on tape." He chuckled once low. "You really believe that I've got the file size to prove it." The kitchen light flickered as the clouds pulled apart. I set the recorder beside the binder red dot, blinking steady. Capturing the sound of truth staying put. The air smelled of rain and printer ink, and for the first time in weeks the mailbox flag outside stood upright without complaint. Grandpa looked toward the road. Voice steady. "Next comes the public part. Fair stage," I said. "County microphones." He nodded slowly, like a man measuring noise against evidence. "Then we'll see who still talks when the paper does." I wrote one last line in the log pen, carving deep "tear." Executed 03/17. Funds frozen. Account hold verified. Then I closed the binder with both hands and turned off the lamp. The echo felt final, like the house itself exhaled. "See you on mic," Callahan's voicemail said a minute later. I didn't need to reply. The paper was already speaking for us. The mic crackled once, then steadied under the hum of the crowd. Folding chairs squeaked. The air smelled of BBQ smoke and paper programs' heat and expectation sharing the same space. On a long plywood table, 2 laminated maps lay side by side, the official county plat from 2019 and the HOA's hand-drawn boundary map. From 20 feet away, you could see they didn't match. The commissioner adjusted his tie and tapped the recorder on the table. "This hearing is on record," he said. "Public session, Fairgrounds Hall, 9:05 a.m. Reporters shuffled by the rail, testing pens' phones already set to video. My grandfather sat 2 seats to my left, the pink slip from months ago, tucked into our evidence binder like a bookmark of patience. Across from us sat Diane Kershaw, HOA, president, posture sharp enough to draw blood. Her lawyer whispered something and she nodded without really hearing it. I lifted the mic closer. "We're here because a citation was issued under a bylaw from 1998. I opened the binder to the certified plat. But the record shows this HOA didn't exist until 2019. Here's the county seal. Embossed. Verified." The commissioner leaned forward. "Ma'am," he said to Diane, "does your board contest that date?" Her smile didn't move her eyes. "Administrative delay," she said. "We modernized records." Callahan seated behind us as counsel rose slightly. "For the record," she said, "Hollis & Thorne, LLP filed a verified restraining order at 03:17 a.m. last week. Funds were frozen pending this clarification." The line landed like a gavel. Murmurs rippled through the chairs. A neighbor muttered, "They froze their account." Diane's hand fluttered near the mic. "This is a misunderstanding." The commissioner raised his palm. "We'll let paper talk. Proceed, Mr. Thorne." I laid out the bylaw log, the bank confirmation, and the microfilm printouts from the library. 12 identical fines, I said. All dated before the HOA legally existed. All swept nightly into the same account. Her lawyer leaned in. Those records were reconstructed for clarity. Clarified how I asked. By changing the date field to match a story, Diane inhaled through her nose. The microphone caught it. The hall was so still that the popcorn machine in the next booth sounded like static. The commissioner gestured toward the binder. "Ms. Kershaw, you've heard the documents read into record. Do you dispute the creation date of your bylaws?" Her voice cracked around the first word. The document was formatted for convenience. "That's not the question," he said. A reporter's camera clicked. Grandpa kept his hands folded on the table, calm as stone. "Just answer him," he said quietly. Diane looked down, then back up. "The date was adjusted," she said. The words came small but carried through the PA like thunder in a gym. It was backdated so homeowners wouldn't think we were new. The room inhaled as one. Someone in the back whispered, "She said it." The commissioner looked to the stenographer. "Mark that. Admitted date altered post-incorporation. Entered into record." He turned to me. "Mr. Thorne, any further exhibits?" I shook my head. "Just the one that started it." I lifted the pink citation high enough for the crowd to see. "Issued under a law that didn't exist, paid for by those who trusted the paper was honest." Grandpa's eyes shone not from anger, but from arrival, the kind of quiet that follows a long climb. Diane tried once more. "We only wanted uniformity," she said. "It wasn't malicious." Callahan didn't look up from her notes. "Uniformity doesn't authorize fiction," she said. The commissioner nodded. "Record will reflect the statement." A neighbor stood in the aisle. "So you took fines on a fake rule." The deputy moved to hush him, but the commissioner let it breathe. "Sometimes truth needs a little air." Outside the open doors, the smell of hickory smoke drifted in from the BBQ pit. The crowd's buzz rose mixed with the scent of sweet sauce and dust. The mics picked up every chair scrape. Grandpa leaned close to me. They heard her. They did, I said. The commissioner adjusted the recorder again. Mr. Thorne. Final remark. I looked at the red recording light steady and unblinking. Every noise fades, I said voice, even through the feedback. Paper outlives noise. For a moment, no one moved. Then the crowd exhaled an applause, uneven, startled real. The microphones hissed under the weight of clapping hands of neighbors realizing proof had shape and sound. I gathered the binder still warm from the lights and closed it. Grandpa stood slow, tipped his hat toward the commissioner and toward Callahan waiting near the doorway. Her mouth shaped two words. Double climax. Outside, the fair kept going, kids screaming near the Ferris wheel, radio music leaking from stalls, but inside the hall the record was sealed, the truth stapled to daylight. When we stepped into the sun, Grandpa touched the binder's spine. You think they'll pay it back? They'll try to hide first, I said. But hiding costs paper. He chuckled, the sound rough and proud. Then we're rich in paper. I didn't answer. The mic still hung live behind us, red light burning, catching the faint echo of what had just been said. The words would live longer than any noise that tried to bury them. The courtroom smelled of varnish and paper, the kind that holds the weight of decisions. The judge adjusted his glasses and looked over the filings stacked before him, our TRO. The bylaw log, the certified plat, and the transcript of Diane Kershaw's admission from the fair. When he spoke, his voice was flat but certain. Injunction granted. No gavel, no drama. Just the sentence that reset the room's air. Beside him, the deputy placed a small metal ring on the wooden bench. 3 keys clinked dull and final. These open the HOA's storage office filing cabinet and post box, the deputy said. Partner Callahan rose steady as someone who'd rehearsed this moment through 100 other clients. Your Honor, the bank officer is waiting outside with escrow documents to facilitate refunds. We'll manage routing through county supervision. The judge nodded once. Funds remain under hold until certified distribution. Proceed under seal of this order. Grandpa exhaled for the first time in what felt like months. His hand brushed the brim of his hat as if acknowledging the verdict itself. I logged the timestamp, 11:42 a.m., and wrote in the margin keys received under injunction authority. Outside, the courthouse steps gleamed with rainwater. The bank officer waited near the column's briefcase, locked eyes cautious. You're the plaintiffs, he asked. Callahan showed him the stamped copy. We're counsel of record. Escrow Initiation Code 0317INV. He nodded, opened the case, and laid out escrow forms on the marble bench, each line labeled Refund Source Unauthorized Fine. The paper smelled faintly of toner and fresh correction. Once this pipeline is approved, he said, credits return to property accounts automatically. It'll take 72 hours. Grandpa squinted. 72 hours feels biblical. Bank hours, the officer said with a thin smile. That night, the HOA office felt smaller than rumor had made it. Beige carpet, one humming fluorescent, and stacks of ring binders that pretended to be authority. The deputy standing by the door read from the warrant sheet. Under injunction 0614B, county supervision authorized for audit. He handed Callahan the keys. Chain of custody begins, now, she said. I unlocked the first cabinet. Inside were checkbooks stamped with the HOA logo. Each register neat in handwriting that didn't expect company. Callahan flipped the pages while I logged totals into the binder, $75, $70. Each check a clone of guilt. Grandpa stood by the window, arms folded. They didn't even change the ink color, he said. They didn't have to, I said. Nobody ever looked. The bank officer connected a small scanner to the office desktop. Checksum, verification, he said, as the screen filled with columns of numbers. One by one, each transaction linked to a name we'd already seen on microfilm. 12 in total. Every fine, he said softly, transferred to operating, then withdrawn for miscellaneous maintenance. Which means, the deputy asked. Callahan turned the screen toward him. Fraud confirmed. The deputy wrote it in his log, slow and deliberate. Confirmed, he repeated aloud as though saying it sealed the fact. At 9:10 p.m., the judge's clerk called through on speaker. Preliminary report acknowledged. Keep the keys in official custody overnight. Public summary to be read tomorrow evening. The room was quiet except for the printer. Pages slid out like slow admissions. Grandpa traced a finger over one receipt's signature, Diane's name, penned in the same stiff loops as the notice we'd received months ago. She built a house on pretend paper, he said. Callahan packed the binders into evidence boxes. Now the paper takes it back. The bank officer finished his scan and unplugged the cord. Checksum complete, he said. Escrow sequence ready. The deputy placed the keys in a clear envelope, sealed it, then handed it to Callahan. You'll sign chain custody at the hearing. I labeled the final folder, Injunction Executed 06-14, then took one last photo of the screen before shutting it down. The room's hum faded. Grandpa looked around the small office, the dead clock on the wall, the bulletin board filled with old flyers. All this fuss for $75, he said again. Callahan closed the evidence box. It was never about the amount, she said. It was about who thought they'd never be asked to prove it. We walked out under a thin drizzle. The courthouse lights still burned across the square, haloing the wet steps in gold. The commissioner waited there, coat collar up, recorder in hand. Report filed, he asked. Filed, Callahan said. Funds, frozen, keys logged, checks verified. He nodded. Then it's not over. Grandpa tilted his head. What's left? Tomorrow, the commissioner said we open the meeting to the public again. Same hall, same microphones. A gust stirred the papers in his hand. He caught them before they flew and tucked them under his arm. People deserve to hear the numbers. I smiled, tired but sure. They'll hear them. He looked at me, eyes reflecting the streetlight's hum. You folks don't shout, he said. I closed the binder against my chest, the edges still damp from the night air. We don't shout, we file. The deputy's cruiser pulled away, first taillights glowing like red periods on the end of a sentence. Behind him, the courthouse clock struck 10. Each chime sounded less like ceremony and more like closure. Grandpa exhaled, watching his breath fog in the cool air. Tomorrow's meeting, he said. Public again. Public, I said. This time the microphones will belong to the truth. He smiled faintly. Then it'll be loud enough. The courthouse doors shut behind us with a soft click. Metal on stone, steady as justice, catching its rhythm. The projector buzzed like a tired insect against the pale wall of the HOA hall. Folding chairs scraped across linoleum as neighbors filled the rows, programs in hand. The air carried the weight of old coffee and new accountability. At the front table, the secretary adjusted her microphone, her voice catching once before it found its steadiness. For the record, she said the board of Meadowbrook acknowledges the citation errors under Cater 12-07 and the improper collection of fines. An apology is hereby entered into the minutes. A single pen tap echoed from the back, one of the residents marking history in his own notes. The president, Diane Kershaw, sat beside the podium, shoulders rounded. The blue binder of audit findings lay open in front of her, the pages turned like confession. Behind her, a bronze plaque was draped in cloth. Grandpa leaned toward me. You think that's the new sign? Maybe the new start, I said. From the corner of the room, partner Callahan, our mentor, stood near the folding screen, arms crossed, eyes steady. She looked less like counsel and more like a teacher waiting to see if the class remembered the lesson. The commissioner cleared his throat. Next item, refund schedule. The secretary read from a typed sheet, voice mechanical but brave. All fines collected under the rescinded bylaw will be reimbursed through Valley First Community Bank, escrow account number 03 INV. Distribution begins Monday, concluding within 3 business days. Statement of verification to be posted on the public board. A soft murmur spread through the crowd, names, whispered numbers verified. For many, it was the first time the word refund had sounded like justice instead of rumor. Callahan stepped forward. If I may, she said. The commissioner nodded. She faced the audience, her tone calm and surgical. The motion to rescind and refund is not a favor, it's compliance. Our firm will file a closing report certifying that the injunction has been satisfied. More important, we're establishing a policy clinic, a quarterly review where any homeowner can request bylaw verification. Transparency shouldn't depend on outrage. Her words filled the hall without raising volume. Diane Kershaw kept her eyes on the table, fingers tracing the edge of the paper she'd signed earlier. When the commissioner asked for the vote, every hand rose, even hers. "Motion passes," the secretary said. "All fines, rescinded, refunds approved by law 012-07 officially void." The moment hung in the air. Then came applause, not wild, not triumphant, just long enough to matter. When it stopped, a 3-second silence followed, thick and grounding. It was the sound of something closing properly. Grandpa straightened in his chair. "That's what honesty sounds like," he whispered. Diane stood slowly, turned toward the microphone. To those affected, she said, voice barely over a whisper, "We were careless. We forgot what our own signatures mean. We thank those who reminded us." The secretary added her statement into the minutes word for word. Echo entered the record. Callahan met my eye across the room, lifted her folder slightly, a silent checkmark on a promise kept. The commissioner gestured toward the cloth-draped plaque. "Let's finish what was started." The cloth came down, and gold letters caught the fluorescent light. Meadow Brook Community, Reformed 2024, Transparency is Trust. A few cameras clicked. Grandpa's reflection glowed on the plaque's surface, framed by words that had finally earned themselves. He nodded toward Callahan. "Didn't think I'd see one of those built from paperwork." She smiled faintly. "Paper builds everything, even this." Neighbors filed out slowly, some shaking hands, others just standing in the doorway as if afraid to break the calm. The commissioner packed his notes and turned to Callahan. "You mentioned a clinic." "Yes," she said, slipping the folder under her arm. "Starts next month right here. Accountability is policy with a face." The microphone caught it clean. Somewhere in the back, the recorder light blinked once, sealing the words into the next set of minutes. Grandpa glanced toward me as the chairs began to fold. "That plaque will outlast the fines," he said. "So will the recording," I said. The projector fan wound down its last hum, fading into the quiet of an honest room. The projector flickered to life at the front of the library hall, casting green light over the new sign, "Transfer Order Signed Account Hold Lifted." The words hung above the crowd like sunlight through glass. The feed scrolled below, escrow 0317 INV cleared. Refunds distributed. Applause began soft, then grew until it filled every corner of the room. Grandpa stepped forward, shoulders straighter than they'd been in months. From his shirt pocket he pulled the pink fine slip, creased, flattened edges pale from handling. "Guess this thing can finally retire," he said, pressing it into my hand. It felt weightless now, the way guilt does after it's told the truth. At the back, Callahan, our mentor, stood beside the clerk, both watching the monitors as funds transferred line by line. "That's the last homeowner on record," the clerk said. "Every refund posted." Callahan nodded. "Legacy begins with zero balance." The air smelled of fresh paint and brewed coffee. The library clinic, once just an idea scribbled on sticky notes, was now a working space. Folding tables labeled Verification Records Consultation. Volunteers arranged binders like blueprints of transparency. People thought we'd quit after the injunction, Grandpa said. But paper doesn't quit. It multiplies. I smiled. That's what makes it win. The plaque leaned against the wall, still covered by brown wrapping paper. Its brass edges caught the projector's light. Callahan gestured to me. "You should do the honors." I pulled the tape loose and the cover slid away. Letters gleamed beneath the dust. Finally, someone fought back. Meadowbrook Transparency Clinic, Est, 2024. The crowd went quiet for a moment, then broke into applause again, neighbors, clerks, even a few of the board members who'd come to learn instead of defend. The sound rolled across the old wooden beams, echoing just long enough to feel earned. Grandpa's hand landed on my shoulder. "You ever think we'd be teaching this instead of fighting it?" Fighting was the lesson I said. Teaching's just proof we learned. Callahan set down her briefcase. "Clinic's open," she said. "Walk-ins, welcome. First come, first verified." At that moment, the door creaked. A man in a denim jacket stepped inside, clutching a folder. They told me to bring everything he said, voice uncertain but steady. First client Callahan whispered. Grandpa gestured toward the table. "Let's get you started. You'll like the smell of fair paper." The clerk took his documents, scanning barcodes into a clean new logbook. No fake templates, no redirections, no hidden dates. The room filled with the rhythmic clicks of keyboards and the low murmur of people who finally trusted their own voices. On the projector, a notification blinked incoming call. County of Alderbrook requesting assistance. Callahan read it, then looked at me. "Another county wants to replicate the model." Grandpa's laugh was tired and proud at once. "Guess trouble travels faster than wisdom." "Then we'll move faster," Callahan said. I typed the reply myself. "Clinic available. Public records protocol shared upon request." The man in denim turned toward us, papers spread neatly on the desk. "You folks, sure this works?" Grandpa handed him a cup of coffee. "It already has. You're standing in proof." The projector dimmed slightly, the light softening across the plaque. The reflection of the crowd shimmered over the words. Finally, someone fought back, merging faces into one steady glow. Outside dusk gathered over the town square, the same flagpole, the same post office sign, but the quiet felt different now. Honest, like a ledger, balanced after too many wrong entries. I set the pink slip on the new clinic counter, sealed in a clear frame. "Exhibit 0, I said. "The reason this place exists." Grandpa grinned. "That's good. Keep it where they can see it." The phone buzzed again. Another county, another question. The clerk answered Meadowbrook Transparency Clinic. "How can we help?" I watched the green call light blink once, then steady. "Next county, next month." I said the words slipping out before I realized they sounded like a promise. "We'll be ready." Grandpa nodded toward the plaque. "You already are." The camera flash from a reporter caught the shine of the letters again, freezing us in that frame, 3 generations of proof that ordinary people could outlast false paper. As the projector powered down its fan, whirring softer, I could still see the afterimage of the words glowing against the wall, not as a headline, but as a habit. Sunlight caught the plaque as the last seal went up on the library wall. The air smelled of coffee and fresh paint, the kind that says a job's finished right. Watching the account unfreeze and the clinic open, I understood that fixing paper wasn't about winning, it was about restoring trust. The system bent, then learned to stand straight again. Finally, someone fought back. Share your HOA story. Below your map might help someone redraw theirs.